Alright, so this first hand I have Jack 10 offsuit on the button. It folds around to me, and pretty obviously we make a very standard raise on the button. JD, I'm just going to call him JB actually here. J Bag of Donuts is just a very strange screen name. Anyway, we'll call him JB. JB calls, and we go heads up to the flop. The flop comes Queen Deuce 5. If I think already about JB's range of hands, it doesn't really hit that board too well. It's quite a dry board. There's a lot of overcards that he's going to fold. He might be tempted to fold a hand like sevens, sevens type of hands. Actually, I'll just stop there and just explain some of my terminology. When I say he might fold a hand like sevens, what I'm meaning is he might fold a hand which has the relative strength of pocket sevens. So what I'm talking about when I say that is I'm saying he'll fold like threes, fours, sixes, sevens, eights, nines, maybe tens. Hands which are a pair but are overcarded. So when I say he might fold sevens, obviously that includes all the hands that are of a similar strength. So he can fold a hand such as sevens. I think he can fold an overcard, but at the same time, I think he can float this board reasonably wide. Just because if he's the kind of player who understands that my range is wide on the button, he's going to call me here a lot of the time and see if I check the turn, and maybe he can show down ace high, or he can show down some kind of a pair. So it's kind of a continuation bet that I would make because I think that it's plus EV, but it's also a continuation bet which I would make in the knowledge that I think he's going to float some of the time with hands which will either fold the turn or fold the river. So I go ahead and bet relatively small. I've said this before, but I think the pot size is not actually correct. I think it's more like 6 and not so much 7. But 4 into 6, 4 into 7, it doesn't really make that much difference. The reason I'm betting a little bit smaller is because I'm just trying to fold him off his air. I don't expect him to fold a hand like a queen, obviously. I don't expect him too much to fold a hand which has like reasonable showdown value, like tens, jacks, but there are definitely a lot of hands which I can get him off of, which will call once on the flop. So I'm just trying to get him off his ace highs, trying to get him off his air, and then I can take some good lines post flop to get him off the rest of his range, assuming that that he doesn't raise somewhere in the hand. So he goes ahead and calls, and the turn comes a 6. Now this is actually a pretty good card for me. It's not a very good card for me to bet as a bluff, expecting him to fold on one street, but what it does is it puts a lot of texture on the board, and what that means is it gives me a lot of bluffing outs on the river. That, combined with the fact that he's out of position and is defining his hand to me relatively well, means that I can now run a pretty profitable 3-street bluff against a player who is not really too imaginative and is generally going to be playing his hand relatively face up.